everybody. Welcome to the Quantum Alignment Show. It is my honor to have you all here today. We're going to have some fun today and keep things relatively light and simple. Maybe not so much easy. Rather, we'll keep things easy, not always so simple. You know how sometimes something's really easy to do and you think, oh, this is so easy, but you forget? Like, how many of you know EFT, the emotional freedom techniques? The tapping, right? How many of you know the tapping actually helps? But then when you get in a situation where you could be tapping, how many times do you remember how to tap? Maybe you all remember more than I do, which I don't really have an excuse for not remembering. I've been tapping for longer than I've been doing human design, but yet I still forget. So being human is hard. So today we're going to talk about how do we remember how to make being human easier. And part of what we're going to be doing is I'm going to give you guys just a quick walk through the introduction to my book, Inside the Body of God. So this book is not actually a human design book. This is a book. I was trying to think about when did I write this a couple of nights ago. And I wrote this at a really, really challenging time in my life, which wasn't like a single little time that was challenging and then I was done with it. This was like a challenging decade plus a couple of years. Maybe a challenging epoch is how it felt when I was in the middle of it. But, when I got divorced, actually before I even got divorced, and I was married for 17 years to a no motors projector who is a dear friend of mine. And even though we're divorced. And one of the reasons why our marriage really kind of hit a rock was because we had two manifesting generator children, me manifesting generator. And I really think we just kind of creamed him. I think we totally burned him out. It was such a bad energetic mix for him. And it just didn't work for a lot of reasons. And one of the major reasons why it didn't work was because of money. Money was a big, big problem in our marriage. And part of it was that I had very gender-based expectations around being a woman and a wife and having a husband. And of course, having a no motors projector husband and getting him to work wasn't that simple. And getting him to homeschool for manifesting generator/generator kids wasn't that simple. And it was really difficult for us. The money struggle isn't something I talk about so much anymore, not because I don't have days when I worry about money. I don't worry about money. Okay. All right, we're back. Good. Okay. So yeah, so much for see, I'm not supposed to share this story. I got told a long time ago to stop telling this story because for a lot of years, I was using this story as kind of my platform for my victimhood. So I'll just kind of do the quick version. In 2009, we started to go through a global recession. Actually, and in May of 2009, after being a single parent with full-time custody of my kids and with having full-time financial responsibility for my kids, because literally my no motors burned out projector ex-husband couldn't even work. He was so crashed, right? So I had the kids full-time. I had full-time support. And I really, really, really wanted to show the kids what it looked like to do your heart work, to do your conscious entrepreneurship. I never wanted them to see me compromising on my mission so that they could be fed. It wasn't that I was going to choose feeding or my mission. I wanted them to see that you could have it all, that you could fulfill your purpose, you could work your purpose, you could generate an income at your purpose, and also take care of the people you love. And it was a really hard decision to do that because there was literally 11 plus years that were extremely difficult financially. I lost a house to foreclosure. I in the middle of all this, I got pregnant at 43 when I wasn't supposed to be able to have children anymore, and I decided to go ahead and have my fifth child by myself. And in the middle of this, we had a recession, and I had this newborn baby, and my firstborn son was going off to college, and I was trying to make all of this work and having to make really difficult decisions like, do I pay college tuition this month or do I pay the car payment this month? And I paid the college tuition. And in the middle of the night, and when I have this newborn baby, the repo man came and knocked on the door and took my car. And I had to run down the street after him with my newborn baby in my arms. And I won't go into all the details of running with my nursing gown on and all my parts flopping out, right? I had to run down the street because he had my car seat in the back of the car when the car was on the tow truck. And I couldn't even go get my car out of possession if I didn't have a car seat. I mean, it was just a really, really difficult time. And so at that time, I used to teach a program called Prosperity Boot Camp, which was a program that met every Thursday night. And we did all this work on mindset and vibrational frequency and staying positive. And really, I taught that program for me because I was not having an easy time staying focused on what I really wanted and in a good mindset. And it came to me at a certain point to rethink the process of manifesting because I was really trying to do the manifesting thing like maybe a lot of you have, kind of like we're taught to do in the movie The Secret, right? I was visualizing and I had all these things on my dream board and my vision board. And like many of you, it wasn't really working out the way that I was wanting it to. I was visualizing full classes and people paying for whatever I was doing at that time. I was doing a lot of different things. I was doing psychic readings and I was doing human design and I was doing EFT and coaching. And, I visualized all this stuff and it wasn't really happening the way I was seeing it in my mind. And I was trying to not be discouraged. And I really had to go through this process of rethinking the process of manifesting and to get myself locked, unshackled from the way that I had been trained to create and to really get more into the flow of alignment and using my energy as my creative power. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yeah, I just figured this out and clicked my heels together 3 times and poof, voila, magic happened in my life. There was a lot of magic that happened in my life. There were a lot of 11th hour saves that happened, I think, serendipitously and synchronistically. But it took a while for me to get it all into a place where it was habituated for me to live from a place of creating more in alignment with my authentic identity and with my energy. So during this time, I wrote this book, Inside the Body of God, which is based loosely on the Gospel of Thomas from the Nag Hammadi. It's the original writings of one of the disciples of Jesus. And it's a really simple book that has a series of short chapters with exercises that have the intention of keeping you in a habit of staying aligned with a high frequency baseline of creativity and learning how to create not so much from I want this car, this house, this whatever, but learning more to create from a place of energetic alignment using the power of your heart to create. So I thank you for saying you want this book. You can get this book on Amazon. A couple of you have sent me notes recently saying you didn't want to buy from Amazon. You can also get it on Barnes and Noble. And it's in Kindle version, and I think it's only $9 and $9.97. In the paperback and the Kindle's not that. I think the Kindle's like $2.99. Anyway, I want to walk you through the beginning introduction today to the book because part of what's happening, if you've been following human design for a while, is that what we talk about a lot in human design is that the chart is changing. We're literally in a shift, an evolutionary shift. And part of what's happening is the way in which we create is changing. It's not like it hasn't been changing. We've been really kind of ushering in this change for sure for the last 100 years. When the minute we started to explore quantum physics and look at the power of perspective and how perspective influences outcome, or how our point of view or how our narrative influences what we create. The minute we started to really get that scientifically and even spiritually, is the minute we really started to activate this evolution that we're in the midst of. And what we see in human design is that this new version of the human design chart, which is slated to sort of debut in 2027. But again, it's not like we're going to wake up one morning and be like, whoa, we're different now. It's an evolution and it's been happening. We're already in it. It's already in us. Our way of creating has already been shifting for a while. And I wanted to kind of go through this with you guys today because I think that when we're under the kinds of circumstances that we're in right now and of reevaluating our lives from a lot of different perspectives, it's a time for us to remember who we are. And to me, there's a lot of analogies between this time, only it's much more intense than the recession. And certainly, as I said, this book gave me a lot of tools to get through the recession, which at the time for me and maybe for many of you was pretty scary. I definitely didn't know what I was going to do and how I was going to stay true to my mission and my purpose. And I am a nurse by training, and I had let my license go. I went back and I got renewed my license because I thought, well, maybe I'll need to give up my dream and go back to work and get a real job. As my family told me the whole time, go get a real job. So, and I wanted to just talk about this because I want to give you a little bit of inspiration so that you see this opportunity this time as a catalyst for the expansion of your creative ability and an expansion of who you are. Because that's really, I think, what it's about. And this is not, and let me just tell you this is not going to be some extremely weird woo woo consciousness tantra energy snake 12th dimensional activation thing. This is just simple things you can do in your human story to help you stay aligned with living out the fullest expression of who you are and your true creative nature and your abundant nature. So let's get started. Yay! All is well then. So I was reminded this morning in my journaling, take it day by day and just be grateful for the day. So I'm grateful for the moment that the slides are working. So inside the body of God, 13 strategies for thriving in the new world. This is the introduction of the book. And so I thought today we'd look at that a little bit through the lens of human design. For us to really understand the conversation for today, we have to look at a very simple human design concept. And it's a concept that I want to revisit because it's taught in a couple of different ways. And I do tend to teach this a little bit differently than traditional human design. And I think that for the intent of understanding what I want to share with you, it's going to be helpful for you to revisit this really simple idea. When you look at your human design chart, you'll see that on your chart, there's some things that are colored in and some things that are white. We call the things that are colored in defined. We call the things that are white open. Everything that you have defined or everything that's colored in your chart is a theme for you. It's part of your life and your soul curriculum. It's a theme you're going to be exploring your entire journey in this lifetime. And the purpose of that exploration is to give you an opportunity to, through your experience with these energies, to find the highest potential expression of these energies. These are things that are going to be fixed themes in your life. They're themes that you're going to be living out in your relationships, in your own inner contemplations and thinkings, in the things you create and manifest. These are, in essence, the true aspects of your authentic self, or parts of your authentic self. And I'm saying that way very intentionally because it's common in traditional human design to look at the open parts, the white parts, and to define those as the not self, as if that's not a part of who you are, but it is a part of who you are. Anything in the chart that you have white is where you're going to be experiencing energy from other people. And because you're getting it from other people, and other people are as varied as as I don't know, they're very varied, right? There's 7 billion of us here, and we're all different because your experience of the energies in your openness has a lot of variability, and you're going to experience it in a variable kind of a way. It's a really powerful place for you to gain wisdom about energies. So here's what happens wherever you have whiteness or openness in your chart. Wherever you have openness in your chart, you're taking energy and information in, you're amplifying it, so you're feeling it very intensely. And as you feel it very intensely, you're learning about it. You're discovering the different ways that these kinds of energies can be expressed and experienced. What commonly happens, and this is really where the term the not self comes in, is that we tend to, because we feel things so deeply in our openness, we tend to identify with them. We mistakenly think where we have openness is who we are because we feel it in such a big way. But in fact, it's not who you are. It's you're not what you're feeling in your openness. You are your openness. If you can really tease out the difference between the two. You're a vessel for the variable experience of that energy. You're the vessel, but you're not the energy. The way I like to explain it to my professional students is that if you can imagine that your open centers are like a screen door, and if you could imagine for a minute that the screen door had consciousness, if the screen door had a breeze blowing through it, and the screen door said, I am the wind, it would be very confused, right? Because it's not the wind, it's a screen door. It's just the same for us with our open centers. If we are claiming to be what's flowing through us, we're confused. And we're starting to identify with something that we're not. The beauty of openness is that over the course of time, as you go through life and you experience your openness and all of these different energies that you feel in your openness, as you experience it, what happens is you get to choose how you want to use those energies. You can't hold on to them. They don't belong to you, right? The screen door can't grab onto the wind and hold it, right? But while the wind is blowing through it, it can experience it, right? That's the same for us in our openness. While it's blowing through us, we can experience it, but differently from the screen door as human beings. As we're experiencing these energies, we get to decide how we want to choose to express it or not, or experience it or not. So, for example, if you look at this chart on the bottom right-hand side, there's a triangle on the right called the emotional solar plexus. That big triangle on the right in this particular chart is open. So this person is emotionally open. So when this person goes out into the world and they're experiencing emotional energy, they're going to feel everybody's feelings around them. It's very easy with this configuration to jump into the emotional fray because this person is experiencing these emotions in an intensified way, right? That's the nature of openness. And this person could get confused, like, is this mine or not? But once this person understands that they are the screen door and emotional energy is the wind, and they're not the wind, they're the door, then they can be present to that energy and even potentially choose, hey, am I going to react in this situation? Is it worth investing my energy right now to jump into this emotional fray or this emotional thing that's happening or not, right? So you have freedom and you have choice ultimately in your openness. You also, by the way, have freedom and choice in your definition, the things that are colored in. But the theme of your definition is going to keep repeating itself over and over and over again because that's part of what you're here to really, really learn about and ultimately really master. So as I'm going through this information, I just want to remind you as I'm showing you different elements in the chart, some of you are going to have these elements colored in and defined, and these are going to be ongoing themes for you. And some of you are going to have these elements open, and it doesn't mean you don't have them. It means that you have them open, which means you'll have a variety of experiences here. And either way, whether you have definition or openness, it's all you. It's not you, right? It's all still part of who you are. You'll always be, if you have this chart in front of you that's on the screen, if you have this chart, you'll always be an emotionally empathic person. That's the vessel of your emotional energy, right? It's all you. The only difference is we experience it differently. And because of that, we experience the lesson that I'm going to show you in the definition. We're going to experience the lessons a little bit differently. So let's look at the 13 strategies. The first of these strategies is release that which no longer serves you. If you have an undefined spleen, on the left-hand side, you'll see there's a chart with a brown triangle colored in. If you have that triangle white on your chart, there is oftentimes associated with that center being open, and that'll be half of you. There's a tendency there with that center being open for you to hold on to things for longer than you should. And those things can be little physical things, they can be belongings, they can be stuff in your garage, they can be old stories that no longer work for you. They can be old emotional hurts, they can be old identities, old pains, old fears. So it's kind of built into us that to a certain degree we do hold on to things that define us. If you look over on the right hand image here, the G center with the yellow diamond, that yellow diamond says so let me just back up. The G center is the center for love and direction. The nature of the kind of direction that the G center takes us all in, and this is true for you whether you have this open or defined. The G center is deeply entangled with love and lovability. Your direction in life is deeply entangled with love and lovability. This is the center for love and direction, which means the direction that your life takes you is going to be determined by the quality and the quantity of love that you perceive you are receiving and you have received. And the third thing that this center is sometimes called is the identity center. Sometimes we call the G center the identity center. The story of who you are lives in that yellow diamond. And if you're not telling a story that is the true story of who you are, or you're telling a story where you're still holding on to an old story that's not serving you, it's going to continue because your story is programming the direction in the G center. It's going to continue to take you in the fulfillment in the direction that fulfills that story. Okay. And I'm going to go into more depth with that as we go through. So there's a potential for you to be holding on to a story in either your open spleen or when we're looking at releasing what no longer serves us, you might be telling a story about who you are, and we're going to go into a little bit more depth about this in just a minute, that isn't a story that's serving you anymore. And part of it might just be that you don't know what new story you want to install. Some of it might be when we know who we are or when we know who we think we are, it's safe. And sometimes because this center can have a lot of vulnerability associated with it, holding on to an old identity or an old story is sometimes safer than giving ourselves permission to take a risk that we could actually be bigger than we think we are, that we could actually be more than we think we are. Maybe we have a story about people shutting us down or telling us we can't or telling us we're not good enough in some way, or that if we do this or show up this way, it won't be profitable, valuable, lovable, etc. And so we hold on to a limited story, a story that we've shut down because it's safer than taking the risk of showing our true colors to the world and getting criticized or getting judged by others. So it's vulnerable sometimes to change that story, but releasing those stories that don't serve you, that are keeping you playing small, are really important. And I certainly would invite you, and in the book we go through some steps to really start looking at how to rewrite that story, to really begin a process of exploring if the story you're telling about who you are needs to be released, or if there's parts of that story that need to be released. I'll tell you, in my money story and in my divorce story, which were two stories that went hand in hand with each other, I had to stop telling that story. I used to tell it in my classes and I used to tell it when I got on stage. And I had to stop telling that story because part of what I was doing with that story was telling it from a victim perspective. And it was keeping me disempowered to talk about myself as a survivor of this terrible story instead of looking at writing a new story about my life where I was a thriver and I was creating what I wanted. And it wasn't strictly in response to the chaos and the trauma of what had come before, but it was my story, the way I wanted it, independent of all the stuff that had happened prior to that time. And some of you might need to do that too, to stop telling the story of what you've survived and to instead define yourself completely independent from the things that have happened before. Which leads me to number 2, letting go of the past. And this is just deepening this story that I just told you, right? When we look at the human design chart as a blueprint for the human story, the channel 1333, connecting the G center, the yellow diamond, to the throat, is an aspect of our identity that I call the channel of the personal narrative. Okay? Who we tell the story that we tell about who we are, our personal narrative, sets the tone and the direction for your life. This story that you tell is programming your identity. It's also programming your brain to pay attention to the outer reality, to be attracted to or to notice the things that match the story you tell about who you are. Your brain can only process about 2,000 bits of information per minute. Yet, at any given point in time on our planet, you're receiving hundreds of thousands of bits of information. Your brain has to sort through all that information to pick out what's most relevant to you. When you're telling a story about who you perceive yourself to be, the story you're telling is programming your brain. It's called the reticular activating system. You're programming the reticular activating system to notice in your outer reality the things that match your story. So if you're telling a story that isn't really true about who you are and you're programming your brain that that's the truth, your brain's going to start finding evidence to support that, even if it isn't really true. The other part of this is this gate, this channel says, and if you have this defined, this is a consistent theme in your life. You're always going to be looking at your narrative if you have this defined in your life. And not only are you going to be looking at your narrative if you have this defined in your life, you're going to be listening and hearing everybody else's narrative, because when you have this channel defined, everybody tells you everything. You're the keeper of everybody's secrets. You're the keeper of everybody's story. If you have this channel open, if it's white on your chart, it means you have a little bit more variability around this theme. You're not necessarily always going to be thinking about your personal narrative or working on your personal narrative. This this channel says you have the opportunity in any given nanosecond to redefine the story of who you are. And part of what you can do as a redefinition of that story is to forgive the past, or to forgive the people from the past, or to forgive yourself from the past as part of letting go and redefining the story. You don't have to drag the past with you. In fact, I would lovingly and gently say that it's very difficult to innovate if you're dragging the past with you. This gate says the more we can forgive, and that doesn't mean condone, that doesn't mean accept or allow if it's something terrible has happened to you, but it means you can unshackle yourself from the story and redefine the story the way you want it to be. You can write it the way you want it to be. You literally can write it the way you want it to be. The brain is so much programmed by how things feel and what we tell it to think. You actually have way more control over your brain than you think, that you can rewrite your story the way you want it. And when you rewrite that story the way you want it, it becomes part of a narrative that gives you more power, that allows you to break yourself free from the patterns of the past. Number 3, for us to move forward into the manifestation of an evolved world, or more evolved world, we have to stay out of doubt. Doubt is a natural part of being human. It's built into what's called the logic circuit. and this is in this slide, this is the logic circuit. And probably every one of you has at least one gate in the logic circuit, and some of you might have even more. If you look at our human story and you look at how this circuit runs, it runs through the spleen on the left. The spleen is the center for survival. The purpose of logic is to understand patterns so that you can predict the future. The fact that this circuit runs through the spleen says that our survival is based on our ability to interpret patterns and to see whether the patterns are going forward in a way that's safe or not. That's great if you're an animal with instinct. This is really instinct to a certain degree. But humans are more complex. They're hardwired more richly and more complexly than animals. And so for us, our doubt can sometimes bleed out into everything, including having doubts about things being okay and doubts about the future being okay. And when we let doubt run the show, and when we let doubt trigger fear, we block ourselves short of creating beyond the limitations of what we think is possible. Think about your life right now, and think about, and this is just a fun activity to do later, think about how many impossible, serendipitous, synchronous things have happened to you. Maybe some of you met your soulmate in the most magical, strange, and unexpected way, right? Maybe some kind of magic happened. Maybe you've had an illness or an experience that people told you you'd never get out of or you'd never heal from, that you did heal from. Maybe in your darkest hour, a miracle happened that pulled you into a different place, a different awareness, a different insight. We all have had experiences that have defied our expectations, that have defied the logical patterns. And if you can't remember any of your own, I challenge you to go on what I call a miracle hunt. Go to the internet, go Google miracles, and start reading stories that come up on the internet about things that have happened that are strange and unexpected. There's oodles and oodles of stories about weird and unexpected things that have happened. Because here's the thing, doubt and logic and reasoning, that's a great place to do science. That's really what this circuitry is about. It's about analyzing and interpreting patterns so that we can predict the future. That's really what science is about, right? If you want to come up with a new drug, you want to do a scientific process that's going to verify and validate that this is in fact a true thing to do, a good thing to do, because the pattern is consistent that this drug will work in this way. But life isn't only logical. It's only one of three ways that things happen in the human blueprint. And there is an entire circuit called the sensing circuit that's all about stories and miracles and breaking patterns. And 1/3 of our hardwiring is about breaking patterns. Actually, 2/3 of our hardwiring is about breaking patterns, because the mutative circuitry, there's another circuit in there called the mutative circuitry. It's also about breaking patterns. So most of our human story is actually about breaking the patterns, not living in the pattern. And yet, because fear, which is part of the circuitry, is such a powerful thing, we let fear stop us short from trusting that everything's going to be okay, because we don't know what the pattern is, and therefore we freak out. So do your best to stay out of doubt, and I'll tell you the best and most fantastic thing you can do to stay out of doubt is stay creative. Do things that are playful, joyful, and fun, that feel good. Your logical mind might say, well, how's that going to fix anything? Here's how it fixes things. When you get out of fear, when you get out of rigidly trying to figure out the pattern and you instead go play, you go paint, you go take a hot shower, you go outside for a walk, you go hang out with your dogs, you go play with your kids, you go juggle with your kid, you go bake in the kitchen, you go take a nap. All of those other things actually decrease your cortisol, your fight or flight response. They increase your dopamine and your serotonin levels, and you become more creative. You start to see relationships between experiences and things differently, and suddenly you're in synchronicity or you're in serendipity and magic starts to happen. So get yourself out of the pressure of trying to figure out the future, which is really the role of this circuit. Stay out of doubt and go play. Playing has an incredibly important function. We'll solve the world's problems when we play harder. Leverage fear. That's the next piece that we're going to be looking at. The spleen center, as we've been talking about, this instinct center that functions from a place of fear, gives us a pulse to take action in response, causes us oftentimes to get paralyzed and we can't move forward. So here are some questions I want to invite you to explore if you feel like you're getting stuck in fear. The first question is, are you actually afraid? Or is your internal signals telling you that you're out of alignment, that what you think you're wanting or what you think you're trying to create is actually not what you really want? And so your internal intuition is saying, no, I don't want to do that. And we're interpreting that as fear. And maybe it's not fear. Maybe it's just a signal that you're out of alignment. Are you really afraid, or is your inner intuition telling you that the timing's wrong and you're trying to push against right timing? Are you really afraid, or are you ignoring your intuition? Is there something else here that you need to be paying attention to that you're not seeing because you're wanting it to look like this so badly that you're pushing? Can you turn this pulse of fear? And sometimes it is fear, but here's the thing about fear. By design, fear gives us a one-time pulse. And if we push through it, we actually get to the other side of it and it goes away. We're not designed to stay in a state of fear constantly. That's rooted in adrenaline. And if you're constantly in a state of fear, you run the risk of really depleting yourself, which is why action is oftentimes really important to do when you're feeling fear. Even though the tendency, the instinct is to curl up and be paralyzed, that's actually the worst thing you can do for yourself because it keeps you in that adrenaline state. So do something. See if there's some kind of action that you can take to push through the fear, something that you can play chicken with yourself a little bit and push to the other side. Or if you're feeling fear, is there something here you need to listen to, which kind of is the same as ignoring your intuition. Number 4, diligently tend to your vibration, and that means play. If you're like, what does that mean? I'm going to give it to you in one word: play. Go play. Okay. When we look at the mechanics of how we manifest, we say, and you may have learned, your thoughts create your reality. They do, but not necessarily in the way that we've been trained. It's not so much about visualizing the perfect car or visualizing the perfect house and poof, it appears in your life. Sometimes it works out that way, but usually it kind of doesn't. Here's how this happens. Couple of things to think about. First of all, in your G center, the diamond in the center of the chart, in your G center, there lives a magnetic force. We call it in human design the magnetic monopole. That magnetic force is responsible for programming your brain to pay attention to things that match your story. It's also responsible for literally pulling things into your electromagnetic resonance field. You can program that magnetic resonance field with your emotional energy. Your emotional energy is in turn programmed by your thoughts. So when we say your thoughts create your reality, they do. Here's how it works. Your thoughts, that means your questions, your imaginations, your contemplations, you exploring the possibilities of all the possibilities. The power of your beautiful creative mind and all the meanings that you hold about your life and your life circumstances. Those questionings, those thoughts, those inspirations, when you have those thoughts and inspirations, they actually trigger a photon storm, a storm of light. That storm of light in turn causes your brain to create neurotransmitters. Those neurotransmitters in turn stimulate an emotional frequency of energy. That emotional frequency of energy in turn calibrates your heart, the G center, and the electromagnetic resonance field of your heart. And that emotional energy and that calibration then influences what you attract. The more you keep yourself in a state of positive expectation by managing the quality of the thinking that you have. And this isn't about figuring things out, this is about using your imagination to stimulate hope, using the power of your thoughts to elevate your emotional response, to keep yourself in a state of positive expectation. The more you do that, it's not just about think positive, la, 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 la. It's think positive because that creates powerful, positive emotional frequencies of energy. And those powerful, positive emotional frequencies of energy calibrate that electromagnetic resonance field of your heart. And that's influencing what you're attracting into your life, because you're going to attract things into your life that match your frequency. So take care of your frequency. That means put yourself someplace that feels good. That means honor yourself enough. If the environment feels dark or gloomy, or you're hanging around someone that's really not lifting you up and inspiring you, get out of that space and take care of your frequency. Defend it with all your heart. Number 6, remember who you are and why you are here. And in case you forgot, this goes beyond human design. Of course, I think the first thing you do is make sure you understand your human design, right? And I want you to remember you were born for this time. You chose to be here right now because you being the person you created yourself to be when you got here, is learning how to live in alignment with that person. You're learning how to live authentically, to fully express who you are, because when you do that, you increase the abundance in the world. You increase the possibility in the world. You create a wave of energy across the planet that allows people the same thing, that makes it easier for everyone to begin to be in alignment with who they are, each and every one of us serving our right place, that unique and irreplaceable role that only each and every one of us can play, you can play in the cosmic plan. The more you hold that space of alignment, the more you're adding to the energy of alignment on the planet, and the more you're bringing this entire world forward with you. When we look at the G center, which is, I said, the identity center, what we see is that part of who we are is we are here to love ourselves. That's part of our identity. We're here to have power and voice. We're here to express ourselves. We're here to tell our own story and to forgive the past so that we keep moving forward on a daily basis. We're here to take our direction in life from our connection to source. So we're here to be connected to source. We're here to be vital and energetic and embodied in our physical bodies. We're here to be, and I love this because we forget this a lot, fully supported, being who we are. And we're here to share who we are with the world. Do you want to put this differently? Print this up and use this. Look at this for yourself. If you want to put this in a voice, if you want to say this to yourself, who are you? You can say, I am love. I am powerful. I am who I am. I am forgiving. I am serving. I am vital. I am supported. I am compassionate. These are the true voices of the G center. And these are true aspects of your human identity. Number 7, ask for what you really want. And I put the word ask here on purpose, because when we look at the blueprint of the human story, our human design, what we see is that we are designed to interface with the quantum field or God or the universe or whatever you want to call it through asking. The interface between the human design chart and the quantum field, the interface happens in the 3 gates of the head center, the 61, the 63, and the 64. Those 3 gates operate through questioning. If you have ever heard the expression, ask and it is given, that is absolutely and totally the true mechanics of how we pray. We are designed to pray through asking. And when we ask, how is it possible for me to? What needs to happen for me to? Can I have help with? When we ask and pray through asking, What we do is we seed possibilities in the quantum field, and then those possibilities show up in our physical, tangible reality as a response to our asking. So ask for what you want. Pray for your evolution every day. Ask for help every single day. Here's another trick just to contemplate. We have a tendency to think that we create linearly. That's an artifact of being in the third dimension on this planet. We have a third dimensional consciousness, a third dimensional reality. It has time and place associated with it. Those are two very unique phenomena that are specific to the third dimension. In reality, you're existing all over time at the same time. And so, one of the things that you can do to support yourself in your evolutionary journey is to go to the future, go to future you, and send prayers from your future back to where you are right now. We actually did this last night in one of my programs. We imagined for about 5 minutes, we made a list of what the world is going to look like in 2027. And my students came up with such beautiful ideas like it'll be a world of compassion, the forests will be healed, the earth and the water will be healed, people will be healthy and vital, resources will be abundant and shared equitably, we will be more connected, more in community with each other. We created this beautiful, beautiful vision of the future and imagined ourselves for a moment that we were already living in that place because we already are beyond this dimensional awareness. And we prayed for ourselves, our current selves here in 2020. We sent love and prayers and energies to us right now from the future to give us the clarity and the insight and the support that we might need to carry us forward to where our other awarenesses were already living. If it's too much of a mind bender to do this in the future, I think it's a little bit easier sometimes to do it from where you are right now and send love and healing and prayers to the past you. Think about a time in the past, maybe when you had some challenges, and send love back to you during those times. Because you probably need those prayers, right? You need that. So send it back to yourself, send healing back to yourself. And once you get kind of good at sending it back, go to the future and send it back to your current now, to your current reality right now. All right. So think about, as part of this process, think about what do you foresee for the future, and then take a moment and literally send prayers back from your future to this current time. Number 9, this goes back to our logical circuitry, right? Whatever you're doing, practice, practice, practice. As human beings, and especially if you understand the way the brain is hardwired, we don't learn things if we don't practice. You have to get into the practice of staying in an elevated mindset, of staying in a higher frequency of energy. I want you to know that logic demands practice. We know patterns because we repeat them over and over and over again. And built into the logical circuitry is actually the energy of joy. That's the gate 58 that's over on the right-hand side of this slide. Joy is logical, which is kind of funny because most of us think of joy as being emotional. It's not. We experience joy after we practice. Because the more we practice, the more masterful we become. And the more masterful we become, the easier things become and the more joy they have. So as you think about cultivating a practice of staying in a state of positive expectancy, of staying in a place of creating from your faith, staying in a place of creating the unknown, even or from the unknown, even when you can't see evidence that it's coming true yet. Keep taking those steps forward, even though you don't have the evidence and the proof. It takes practice to create that way. It's not how we're trained to create. We're trained to put our minds to it and create logically and linear and systematic approach. That's only 1/3 of the ways in which we create. 2/3 of our being is not about creating from reasoning. It's about creating from frequencies of energy, from experiences, from emotional frequencies. And it takes practice to create from that place. So if you're going to get better at it, you got to practice it. And that means, here's the thing, what that means is you're going to have days that suck. You're going to have days where, because you're learning this and you're still getting practice at it, that you're not going to get it right that day. And it's okay. It's okay. If you've ever played an instrument or you've ever trained for a sport or an athletic event, you know you have really great days when you're like so on and you're so accomplished and you're getting it done, right? And you're breaking all your personal records. And you have days when you're a slug and no matter what you do, it's not working. Thank the bad days because they're teaching you where you need to tweak it. Be grateful for them because those bad days are the days where you learn the most. And then keep moving forward in practice. Number 10, create community. We need to be in community with each other, mostly because we know that we can influence timing and divine timing when we have support. That's part of why I created the Understanding Human Design online community, because I wanted to have a community of human design people, my human design tribe, who could really work together and speak this vocabulary and share with each other what they understood about human design, about each other, and how they could use this information to support themselves in their evolution and growth. Number 11, I've been talking a lot about this, and some of you maybe are students in my integrity course. Be honest and authentic. When we are being true to who we are increasing our sense of worth and increasing our sense of value, and we're actually creating greater value and well-being in our lives. If you are in integrity, if you're being authentic and honest, you will be taking care of your body. You will be taking care of your resources. You will be unapologetically authentic. You will never compromise who you are again. You will do the right thing no matter what, morally. And you will only commit to sharing the energy that you have so that you can stay sustainable and that ultimately over time you have more to give, not less. This is what integrity looks like. That's rooted in this gate 26 here in this chart. If you have this defined, it means you have a lifelong theme of exploring how do you stay in integrity with yourself. If you have this open, it means you have a little bit more variability here. Either way, for all of us, being in integrity, being honest and authentic, is crucial to maintaining and sustaining our long-term energy. It's crucial to making sure that you're staying aligned with your genuine sense of worth and value in the world, and it will give you the energy that you need to be able to create greater value in the world for yourself and for others. Let go of the ropes is number 12. As the human design chart changes, the driving energy in the chart becomes the gate 55, which is featured here on this chart. Some of you have this defined, you feel this deeply, you're wrestling with faith because this is the gate of faith. If you have this open, it might be a little bit easier for you to learn because you don't have this as a theme to wrestle with, but we all are challenged by faith because this gate says, you will create abundantly in the world when you are aware of spirit as source and you keep your emotional frequency of energy aligned with abundance. And it has nothing to do with what education you have, what job you have, who you know in society. It has nothing to do with any of those things and everything to do with what's the quality of the emotional frequency that you have. Do you have the willingness and the courage? Do you have the quality of emotional frequency necessary to create by taking great leaps of faith in your life? To use these times as an opportunity to practice leaping, even if you're not sure you're going to get to the other side of whatever it is you're trying to do it anyway. Because it's such a worthy experiment to gauge how much faith do you have to leap. Because the more we evolve and the more we move forward in the world, the more we're going to need to have faith as our creative power. So if you want to live in a world of equitable, sustainable peace, you got to first see it. Secondly, send prayers back from that time to where you are now. And thirdly, start taking those bold steps forward, moving towards creating that world, even if you don't know if it's possible yet. Even if you don't see evidence of it yet, start acting as if we're moving that direction. And don't let the little waves of change, little things that happen along the way, knock you off your path of moving with great focus forward towards what it is you're intending to create. And last but certainly not least, be deliberate and remember choice. In traditional human design, we're often taught that we have no choice. And Ra used to talk a lot about we have no choice. I will tell you that if you don't know who you are and you don't know where you want to go, you might not have very much choice because you won't know how to choose and you won't know what to choose. But when you wake up to who you are and you know why you're here and your purpose and your mission in the world, when you are awakened to that unique, vital, and irreplaceable role in the cosmic plan that only you can play, you have nothing but choice. You have the choice to activate that right place each and every second of your existence. And that, my friends, is the most important contribution you can make to the world as we evolve this world forward. You being the fullest expression of who you are, is the most important contribution that you can do, that you can give to the world. Because when you do that, you create the energy of possibility for other people to do the same. And when we are all playing in our right place, when we are all serving in our right, irreplaceable, unique role, we are moving the cosmic tapestry forward in the most beautiful and aligned way possible. And I want to thank you all for being you. And I want to thank you all for agreeing to be on this planet at this time. And I want to thank you all for being who you all are, both individually and who we all are together. It's a pretty amazing ride. And I want to honor you all for being here today. I will see you guys again next week. Be well. Have a great week. Take good care of yourselves, you guys. I think we all need a little extra rest, extra care, extra nourishing during this time. So do what you need to do to really take care of who you are. Bye.